let's shift a little bit, staying still on topic here, but let's go to a real practical sense of this, right? And I want to tee this up this way. When Mark originally called me and said, Paul, I've heard you do some things in the past, and we're doing this piece on hospitality. I'd like to have some conversation with you and see if you'd be involved in these meetings. My first thought was, I don't do hospitality. Right? I mean, I do personally, but my work isn't about hospitality. Is not a school word. You do training for teachers across the country. You'll never hear the word hospitality in school. But then what this man made me realize is, even though I'm not calling it that, a lot of what we are doing is hospitality. And we really need to bring hospitality, even that word, into schools. So thank you, Mark, for giving me more work to do. Right? So I want to share with you what we have been doing, even though we have not been calling it hospitality, but I think it fits into what we're talking about, some practical stuff. And we're a little bit behind, so I'm going to skip something that's going to be on your handout. But here's what I've learned. As an old man, life has gotten really simple. There are two situations in life, positive and negative. You can think of it that way. Every situation in life is either positive or negative. Two daughters who are pregnant, everything's going well, positive or negative situation? Positive. My granddaughter Caroline, who's in 4th grade, has a crack in the vertebrae of her back. Positive or negative situation? Negative. Life is that way, positive or negative, right? And we don't have much to say about that. They are what they are. But the energy that we bring to them is where we have a choice. And so to every positive situation in our life, we can bring positive or negative energy. And there are people who bring negative energy to positive situations, right? Sometimes I do. And to every negative situation in our life, we have the same choice to bring positive or negative energy. And there are people who bring positive energy to negative situations. Think of Mandela, negative situation, apartheid, positive energy that he brought to it, right? And in doing that, he transformed a nation that should have burned to the ground. South Africa. All right, so the culture that we operate in, whether it's the culture of a school or a business or a church or your family or whatever, or a nation, the culture that we live in is really the accumulation of the positive and negative energy that we bring to that place on a day-to-day basis. So far, so good? All right? Now, obviously, if we are bringing more positive energy, we're going to create a safer and more trustworthy culture where potential is going to flourish and grow, right? So I'm going to skip this because we're just a little bit behind. I want to share with you 4 components that if we could bring this into the culture of our church, and in some ways it's there, but maybe more consciously, right? Or the culture of our school, whatever, that's what I'm concerned about, then the potential of the people there is going to explode and we're going to be more connected to the original message and the original experience. 4 components. None of these will cost you a dime. Right? Number 1, everyone's first job is to help others succeed. Everyone's first job. So I'm going to put this in the context of a school because that's where I come from. You apply it into your parish life. Right? So in a school, we have a teacher who teaches Phi-Ed. In this culture, what's his or her first job? Say it. Help others succeed. Then do what? Teach Phi-Ed. We have a teacher who teaches reading. What's her first job? Help others succeed, then teach reading. We have a maintenance staff. In this church, there's a maintenance staff. What's his or her first job? And then clean the building. We have students. What's their first job? And then learn reading and math and science and religion, okay? Everyone's first job in our culture is to help others succeed. And then do other kinds of things as well. Why? Why is that so important? Because if we can pull that off in our culture, we have created one of the most powerful things on the planet. It's called a team. Right? A team. A team is a group of people who come around a common mission, and they do one thing. They help each other succeed to accomplish that mission. Right? I'm not just using that in terms of a sports team, but any team. Any team. Right? Now, I want to introduce you to Jenny. I met Jenny when she was a junior at Cretan-Dereham Hall High School in St. Paul. Jenny was an all-state runner in track and cross country. But I met her as her basketball coach. I can tell you Jenny was not all-state in basketball. In fact, if you looked at the scorebook for her last 2 years, she may have scored a total of 6 points. Why is that? Because she very seldom got into the game. Then how is it possible that Jenny's teammates considered her the most valuable player? Well, because Jenny only did one thing for 2 years, which is what? Helped others succeed. If you've got kids who have been involved in sports, you know they love playing the games. What they don't like is the conditioning stuff. Same with my team. But when it came time in practice for those conditioning drills, Jenny was all over it. Come on, you guys, we can do this. She'd be out in front inspiring her teammates. If one of them was falling behind, she'd go back and encourage, all right? Resulted in us becoming a highly conditioned high school varsity girls basketball team. Second half, we're just getting started. We can press, we can fast break. Why? Jenny, right? Her senior year, we had 2 freshman girls on this basketball team, pretty good basketball players. But there'd be a time in practice when Paul's diagramming an out-of-bounds play and explaining it, and Jenny's noticing that these 2 girls are not getting it. So she'd go up to them and say, hey, stay after practice, we'll go over this and you'll get it. That never resulted in Jenny getting more playing time. It resulted in who getting more playing time? The 2 freshmen. See, everything this kid did for 2 years was to help others succeed. Now, I've been describing Jenny as if she is this bottom panda bear. And she was. But do you think she was ever the top bear, where she needed others to help her to succeed, like her coach or her teammates or her teachers? Absolutely. You see, when you operate in a culture where you are doing this for other people and they are doing that for you, your potential just explodes. You are now free to be the spirit to be, named Joyce. And you ultimately cannot fail. Somebody's there for you. Somebody is there for you. I believe, for me personally, the most powerful words in all of Scripture is what God said to Moses when he was shipping him off to see Pharaoh. And Moses did not want to go for obvious reasons. Right? Pharaoh had an army. Moses had a stick. Right? And he made excuse after excuse after excuse. Yeah, God, not a good idea. In fact, why don't you send my brother? He's throwing his brother under the bus. You understand? Moses came up with excuse after excuse. And then God said the 5 most powerful words in all of Scripture. I will be with you. So job 1 is to what? Help others succeed. All right. Here's job 2. It's to communicate you matter. All right. That's what Jesus did to Zacchaeus a week ago in Scripture. Zacchaeus, you matter at a very deep level. How do we do that? In real practical ways. Well, we help others succeed. When you help somebody succeed, you're communicating to that person. You see there are hamburgers here that the little dog's not going to get unless he uses the stepladder, right? Yeah, right? Here's another way. It's something you've been doing for the last hour to me. You've been listening to understand. Do you have any idea that the impact you've had on me? Now, you may have disagreed with things I've said, probably have, but you've been listening to understand. That is powerful stuff, all right? When we listen to understand. Here's a third one. It's called valuing differences. Everybody who walked into this building today came as a unique spirit to be. Right? Now, we all might be coming from the same church, some of us from the same parish, some of us are male, some of us are female. There's similarities, but everybody is a green fish. Understand? Everybody is a green fish. I was doing this training once at a company in Minneapolis, and at the break, a man came up to me and he said this. He said, when I come to work every day, I leave myself at the front door. I understood what he meant, but I said, tell me more. He said, when I go in, I have to think like everybody else, act like everybody else. I can't ask questions, all right? We have to keep doing whatever we've been doing. And here was my thought, what a waste. This man would be of no value to me in my life's work. I have partners. We have to agree on the mission. After that, you are only valuable to me, Joyce, if you bring something different. I've got Paul. with Paul's gifts and talents and his weaknesses and limitations. I got that. I now need something else in addition to that, which is Joyce's differences from me. All right? When we value the uniqueness of another human being, when we value their history, their culture, where they're coming from, whatever is unique about them, whatever God made that is unique about them, when we value that, we are communicating to that person, you matter. And then they open up and they bring their gifts like Zacchaeus did. Right? I want to introduce you to Billy. This boy transformed my life. I met him at a school in Royal Palm Beach, Florida. The name of the school is Ideal School, and let me tell you, it is ideal. Right? It's a school for grades for 3-year-olds through 8th grade. Right? I've been there a couple of times. The first time I went to visit, I was in every classroom. The first room I went to was Billy's. These little 3-year-olds sitting on the carpet, the teacher there. I walked in. Billy gets up, he walks over to me. Good morning, my name is Billy. Welcome to Ideal School. Do you have any questions? I said, thank you, Billy. I do have one question. Where am I? You're at Ideal School. Do you have any other questions? Now, every room I went into, a kid came and greeted me in a similar fashion. Right? Now, what Billy taught me is this has become part of our training now as we work with 250,000 teachers across the country. It's called 4 at the door. What happens at the door of my classroom or the door of your church? What happens or does not happen there is critically important. Right? So in 1970, as a young teacher, if you would have said to me, Paul, what's the purpose of your door to your classroom? I would have said this. Let's say Marla's a student in my sophomore English class. You like that? Okay. I said the purpose of the door in my classroom is so there's an opening in the wall that allows Marla to come in so she can sit down, I can unscrew her head and dump Shakespeare in. There's no real value to the door other than it allows Marla to come into the room. Oh, my friends, was I missing it? The door is the most important part of a classroom. And what either happens or does not happen there is terribly important. How do I know that? 3-year-old taught it to me. All right? So we call it 4 at the door. Here's how it goes. Name to name, eye to eye, hand to hand, heart to heart. So the bell rings, my students are coming in, I'm at the door as a teacher. And when Marla walks in, I say to her, good morning, Marla. She's going to say, hi, Mr. B. Name to name. Why? Name matters. Name identifies us. Essentially what I'm saying, even if I'm in a public school, essentially what I'm saying is, your spirit to be just arrived. And I see you, you're here now, right? Joe, I'm glad you're here. Come in. Get it?
Gotcha.
Name to name.
Gotcha.
Number 2, eye to eye. I'm not at my desk creating corrective papers or emailing somebody. It's going to be eye to eye. Because again, I am recognizing her presence. Here's something that I know as somebody who's involved in schools all over the country. Kids have figured out how to be invisible in school. Now, I don't have the same experience that you have in terms of parish life, but I'm going to assume the same thing. People know how to come to church and be invisible. Is that true? Absolutely. That's a problem. That's not engagement. Kids show up in school, why? Because they have to. That's not education. I want kids to be engaged. All right? Number 3, hand to hand. There's going to be some physical contact between this teacher and this kid that is appropriate. Maybe it's high five. Maybe it's knuckles. Right? You're good. My wife's a kindergarten teacher at Nativity School in St. Paul. It's a hug. Now, here's what we've done. We have taken touch out of school because of inappropriate touch. What we have to take out of school is inappropriate touch. Right? But not all touch. There is appropriate touch. Here's how I know this. I was watching the Viking game. Is it Thursday night? Do you understand that every Sunday in this country, 350-pound men get together for 3.5 hours and they hug each other? All right? Have you noticed that? You're jealous, right? That's what they do. And they stand in the huddle and they hold hands, 11 guys holding hands. Then they go out and they grab other men for 3.5 hours. And they get paid millions of dollars to do that. Understand? Don't you want to do that someday? Yeah. Only for the money. Only for the money. Only for the money. Who modeled this for us? Jesus did, right? Jesus was always, that was the way that he healed people. Holding the children, right? Appropriate touch. Now, there are some cultures that would not want to do that, and we would respect that with certain cultures today, okay? But there's going to be, unless that's the case, there's going to be hand to hand here. And number 4 is going to be heart to heart. I want to say something to Marla that is particular to her. Hey, we missed you yesterday. I know you were sick. How you doing? Right? Or it could be you had a soccer game last night. How'd that go? Or, Marla, I read your paragraph. First paragraph, the way you used the word chuckle made me chuckle. Right? Now, you might be thinking, Paul, that's cool if I had one kid coming into my classroom, if we had one parishioner coming in. But we've got 25 kids or we got hundreds of parishioners coming in. That's why we need Billy. I might, as a teacher, not be able to be at the door to greet every kid. So I need to train Billy, other kids in my class, to do that, right? Where do you learn, if you live in America and you're a kid, where do you learn how to greet other human beings? I asked this question in Phoenix a couple weeks ago and somebody said, Walmart. Right? I think there are 2 places, Walmart and Ideal School in Florida. If you're not at those 2 places, forget it, right? If I'm not with you, in fact, I will go to this place this afternoon. I hang out at St. Catherine's College. I live 6 blocks from there, and that's where I go to work. I prepare presentations there, I write there, in the library at St. It's a fabulous place. But here's one thing that I've noticed that's not so fabulous. I can be walking across that campus at any time, and a co-ed is coming from the other direction. Very seldom is there any contact. I'm often saying, hi, how are you? What are you studying? Stuff like that. And we are 2 ships passing in the night. Now, I'm the father of 4 daughters. When it was time for college, and we were visiting colleges, I'm going to tell you, I had one concern only, safety. I didn't care what majors were being offered on that campus. I wanted to make sure that my daughters were coming home for Thanksgiving. Safety, number 1, right? So I understand if an old man's walking out of the library at 10 o'clock at night in the dark, and a co-ed's coming, and she doesn't greet me, makes total sense to me. But 9 o'clock in the morning, or noon, or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we live on the same planet. I share that with you just to suggest that even on this beautiful campus, they're doing wonderful things at St. Kate's, but there is still this absence of hospitality, right? And we live on the same planet. We do, right? We're brothers and sisters. Huh? Okay, so I'm going to skip that for sake of time. Communicate, you matter, right? Now, communicate, you matter. Say communicate, you matter.
Communicate, you matter.
Right. That's what we want to do when people are present. Communicate, you matter. What do we want to do when people are not present? We want to honor the absent. If Mark and Julie would have said, Paul, you have 15 minutes with our group, that's all. This is the piece I would do, this next 10, 15 minutes. It's around honoring the absent. And here's what we mean by this. When we honor the absent, we speak of those not present but in their best interest. When we dishonor the absent, we speak of those not present but not in their best interest. This is all about creating trust. Right? If Paul today would be talking about people who are not here in a negative way, if you heard me badmouth somebody, who would I be violating trust with? Absolutely, all of you. Because here's what you're thinking. Paul talks about people when they're not here. He'll talk about me when I'm not here. So don't leave the party before Paul. Right? So I want to ask you to look at 6 ways by which we can honor or dishonor the absent. The first one has to do with the idea of thin ice. Okay? I need somebody to play a role as a new person on our parish staff or school. I'm going to say it's school staff. There's somebody who could play that role. You don't have to do anything. Just give me your name. Right? Say again? Pepper. Okay, Pepper. Pepper's the new person on our staff, all right? And your first name is?
Diane.
Diane. Diane and I have been working at this school forever, all right? And so I come to Diane and say, hey, Diane, I am so excited. Pepper's been hired. And we need some fresh ideas and some fresh blood. She's going to bring some new ideas to us. This is going to be fabulous. But you and I have been here since dirt was invented, right? So I'm just wondering if you think there's anything we can do to just kind of help her feel comfortable as she begins, okay? Let me know. When? Okay. Now, did it sound like Paul was honoring or dishonoring Pepper?
Honor.
Honoring. But here's what Diane does. She goes in the faculty lounge and she says to Pepper, "Hey, Pepper, I'm Diane, been here forever. I was just talking about the other old guy who's been here forever. You know, he doesn't know if it's going to work out for you. Because you're new, you might not really fit in with the group here. So, but if there's anything I can do to help you out, let me know." Right? Now, was Diane lying about what I said, or was she translating me? She's translating. That's why we are on thin ice. Whenever we are talking about somebody who's not here, even if we are honoring that person, the person we're talking to might translate it very differently. Now, a way that we can thicken the ice is to be a problem solver, not a problem namer. Watch how this role play goes and you tell me what I'm doing. Diane, this new teacher, Pepper, this isn't going to work out. She doesn't have any experience with the kinds of kids that we have to teach. They'll drive her out of town by Thanksgiving. Problem naming or problem solving?
Naming.
Problem naming. When I am problem naming, I am looking for an ally. I want Diane to say, "Oh yeah, Paul, you are so smart." Right? When I am problem solving, we are looking for a solution. Now here's what I know about all of your parishes. We don't need problem namers. We do need
Problem solver.
Why? Because there are problems in our parish and with our parishioners, right? And the kids and the families and adult, whatever. Right? So here's the deal. When we are problem solving, we are bringing a gift to the entire culture, not just Pepper, but to the entire parish, because we're bringing positive energy. We're creating something that is healthy and safe. So say this with me. Number one, be a problem solver, not a problem namer. Number two, good Minnesotans, we like our lakes to look like that. I want you to think of this lake as representing your life, okay? We want our life to look like that. But some lakes in Minnesota once in a while look like this, absolutely polluted. Now why? Because in front of this lake a sign's been put up that says no dumping here. And in front of this lake a sign's been put up that says dump your garbage here. Right? Now how do we do that in human terms? Watch how this goes. Diane, this new teacher, Pepper, this isn't going to work out. She has no experience about working with the kinds of kids that we work with. And Diane says to me, "You know, Paul, if you feel that way, Pepper's in the faculty lounge. Let's go talk to her now and see if we can figure this out so it doesn't become a problem." To which I would say to Diane, I've got a dentist appointment. I'll see you later. All right? Now, next time I want to dump my garbage, whose lake am I not going to? Lake Diane. I'm going to Lake Don because he'll play with me. Right? So here's the deal. If you are finding that your lake is looking like that, a lot of garbage in it, it's because of the sign you've got up. You're saying to people, come and complain to me. Right? If you want your lake to look like that, you've got to change the sign. Right? So I'm going to ask you to take a moment at your tables. How might we be putting up a no dumping sign, and how might we be putting up a dump here sign? Right? Go ahead. Yak at each other for 1 minute. Half-hour conversation in 60 seconds. Here's number 3. Name is sacred. We honor the absent by holding each other's name as sacred. Now, in your parish, in your community, either everybody's name is sacred or nobody's name is sacred. As soon as we can badmouth the pastor or the archbishop or the president or the mayor of the town or some kid or some parent or some colleague, as soon as we can badmouth one person, then no name is sacred. This is all or none. That make sense? All right?